Hey, bringing you the mighty Omega Boost. This is a segmented run played on hard mode with the stipulations of no damage, no Viper boost, and trying to get the Omega Zeus rank. When I say segmented, I don't mean each level a single segment stitched together, I mean segmented. I'll put a little blurb at the bottom of the screen every time I do it. The first stage is quite free. The two bosses are the only thing of note. In order to get the Omega Zeus rank, you need to have an overall point value of 95 or above, and that is calculated by taking the averages of both your destroy rate and pilot ability at each zone at the end of the run. The first mini-boss is an asteroid base, and it can be farmed a little bit for a different type of score that you can see on the top right corner, and you farm it by destroying the asteroids around it while still keeping an S rank for time. When the lid is closed, all you need to do is lock on, time when it's going to open, and release your homing shot, then move around while shooting the asteroids. You don't need to blow up the rings, but again, it's free points. The boss is also an excellent example of what hard mode changes, since on normal it only shoots perfectly straight, while on hard the shots from the center start to track you. It makes it a little bit more involved, but it's still quite free. If you do it well, you could walk away with north of 20k score here. This attempt was quite average, all considered, but the run ends with over 2 million, so I'm not too upset with how I did here. When it blows up, you get a surprise visit from a group of mobile suit-looking blokes. I have no idea where that little rock base was keeping them, but they're welcomed all the same. I mean, look at them. Downright adorable with how low poly they are and just being clustered together like they came out of a clown car. After that, the zone boss shows up. 100% kills on this stage may very well be impossible, for the stage boss has a random spawn and the ads also seem to have random spawns. People say you need to be on the bottom of the ship for a quick kill, otherwise your time suffers, but you really don't. I won't say it's generous, but it's not nearly as tight as it's made out to be. I personally like to stay on top of the ship and just machine gun it down like here. For whatever reason, it seems like I consistently get a greater number of the ads this way, and still hit the time bonus even doing this and farming the mini-boss a little bit, instead of being really on the ball with the kill times. The game is such a nifty little gem from '99, and I can't even say I grew up with this one. I came across it in my childhood from the official PlayStation Magazine demo disc number 25, and didn't really interact with this game at all until my adulthood. Here you can see the results screen. Clear time is pretty self-explanatory, same with destroy. Pilot ability from the tests I've done seems to just be a mixture of the above two scores. Some people say it's also tied to damage taken, but I've done stages where I take a ton of damage at the very end and it still gives me the same point value, so I'm not quite sure where people source that information from. Zone 2 starts introducing a bit of complexity. You get several waves of small craft to start with, then a cluster of missiles that come in and, when destroyed, break up into small satellites. It's this stage I knew best from the time I've spent in the demo. I just never ended up rediscovering this game for years. The name of it eluded me, and I long since lost the demo disc in various moves across states. It was ironically around the same time I was getting into the other Armored Core games on PS2 that I started looking around and finally figuring out what that game was that I played so long ago. Since I had an Xperia Play R800 that, looking back, I'm almost positive my father stole it from somewhere and passed it off to me before returning to his then 13-year run to the store for cigarettes. I got to play this game a fair bit on the emulator in between classes, or sometimes in class, let's be real, and whenever I wasn't spending time with my then girlfriend. I fondly remember waiting in line for commencement, and since the class was so large, I finally got a normal mode 1cc before it was my turn to get my diploma. I was legitimately happier for that than I was shaking the principal's hand and finally being done with public education. Girlfriend looked pissed though when I told her. I think looking back, she was worried about me going to college without her since there was a year gap between us. Me gushing about a video game was the last thing she wanted to hear at that moment. Other than doing that, I don't have the foggiest idea what happened that day. Only thing I remember was beating this game, and it was the sickest feeling. The space station here is a bit interesting. On your approach, try to knock out those AA guns on the left side with your homing shot. They can clip you frequently if you leave them be. For most of the videos I watch, people don't try to optimize their score on this unit. You'll see videos with only 52 or so kills this zone, but if you position yourself correctly, you can squeeze out another 20 or so kills. Again, without really affecting the time rank all that much. It's a good chunk of score just left on the table, but the game doesn't count those extra 20 units in regards to rank, and that's unfortunate. From the looks of it, optimizing for score involves finding a balance between machine gun usage and homing shot. The MG provides more points, but the lasers do more damage, and you need to balance that ratio again with time and total kills for the bonus at the end of each stage. It's not the most involved score system admittedly, but I think it makes for a good entry shmup overall, or maybe I'm just biased towards this game. The boss coming in is Beta Boost, your rival for the game's runtime, and he's a bit of a pain to no damage. Almost frustratingly so with how the camera whips about and his MG just clips you at times when you can't even see past your own model. He takes more damage from your lasers and you get a bit of time per salvo to put some MG fire into him for a bonus score and a faster clear. It's possible to destroy him even before he flies off for a second time, but in the footage I wasn't fortunate enough to get it. When he's shooting his MG, just fly off to the side and be really careful with how you lock onto him. The longer you stay in the center, the higher the likelihood that he's just going to nail you. And when he starts flying around like he is here, prioritize playing safe and only briefly flick to him for a couple of laser shots at a time. It took me over half an hour just to stop trying to be greedy here and attempting to get as much damage in as possible. When he disappears like Team Rocket, let go of your lock-on button and hit the brake so you can move out of the way as he comes back in. He can fire his MG as he returns, so give him plenty of screen space. After that, he'll start from the looks of it engaging in a turn war with you and be entirely off the camera. It's a bit disorienting, but it seems to be harmless. It's more annoying than anything else. The second time around when he flies off, he will return from the other direction, but the game lets you know this is happening. Looking at the footage, I was so close to gain a 1 cycle on this guy. It's a bit disappointing I missed out on it. Would have looked super slick too. Ah well, what can you do? Those flame decals on his model do look really cool though. You're done with the stage once he's put down. Somehow I missed out on 2 units in this level, and even after reviewing the footage, I still couldn't tell you where they were. Regarding the score bonus while I'm on this screen, I can safely say I have zero idea how it works, but there's a couple point brackets it gives as a reward, with it topping out at 80,192. Very strange number. I wonder if it was an in-joke with the devs or just whatever the math ended up outputting. Right, Zone 3. I really don't like this stage, and this took me a while. The general gimmick is that after each wave, a second wave will spawn in the direction that they came from. If you take too long to deal with them and end up turning around, you will quickly be discombobulated and have no sense of direction and struggle to parse where you need to be to avoid taking damage. On top of that, you won't always be able to lock onto every single ship, so you will need to use your MG to clean up a lone straggler a couple of times. My dislike for this level stems from that lack of direction that you feel, and it's punishing enough as it is and incredibly easy to miss a couple units on this level. It's easier to show the general idea of where you need to be for each wave than describe it, so on your attempt, just try to follow my steps as best you can. Here I was checking to see how many enemies I got. I missed 2, but just said screw it. These 3 aircraft are affectionately referred to as the unkillable units. It's easy to let them get away since there's this huge wave of jets flying in below you, and the game will not let you lock onto them. So you need to manually fly down to meet them, and said unkillables leave by the time you deal with that group. The route is good, I just wasn't good enough to get every single enemy. Now you get one wave that looks more intimidating than it actually is, and then followed by a cluster behind you that spins. Avoiding damage from these 2 groups is pretty easy, and going forward is just the pair of bosses. The mini-boss is a bit strange. You seem to have a 50-50 chance of getting it into a loop if you spam laser shots at it. It'll just sort of spin in place like a broken AI in Last Raven. Or he'll function correctly and shoot missiles at you in between those spins. The tech here is that when he's attacking you, hit the brakes and just fly off a little bit to the side after every volley you do. This will cause his attacks to miss you and fly past, and make you look like an utter god at the game. If you're going to be going for the 100-point time bonus, be mindful of his distance to you, and feel free to boost after him to keep yourself in lock-on range. Don't stress out too much if you can't defeat this guy quickly. The following boss you can smash when done correctly, and it saves loads of time. I do really enjoy the music in this game. The Gran Turismo guys are the minds behind Omega Boost, so it makes sense their music choices would be so good. Right, the bomber boss. There is a total of 11 destroyable parts on this monster. But before anything else, on your first pass, it will shoot out these 2 yellow orbs right at the start of the fight. Dodge those and just go to town. Each part that's destructible takes a chunk out of the health bar. There is the 2 engines, both ailerons on each wing, 4 discs on the top of the craft, the 2 thrusters on each side that you can't lock onto, and the fuel tank on the belly. Casually, when it starts this laser bombardment, you use the craft as cover and it looks like said lasers are raining down from everywhere. But when they are targeting you, they consolidate to a single strike that follows you. This allows you to get up to some silliness on the top of the craft. Just make sure you stay straight, and to do that, just tap your lock-on key every once in a while. Otherwise you go sideways and the lasers can clip you and it's not a good time. When you're below it, the craft drops bombs on you for a short spell before switching over to the bombardment. And occasionally it will shoot AA guns at you, and those can go through its own model. That's no fun. All that you really need to do here is just stay on the move, for the most part. Go up top when the lasers come out and get those discs out of the way. You'll get more lock-on targets on the bottom of the ship than the top. As long as you blow up one of the 2 thrusters, 3 out of the 4 discs, and all the other targets, the ship will go down quite quickly. Hell, it's fast enough that you probably could farm out 2 to 3k extra score with your MG if you're so inclined. I'm half tempted to go back to this level and really try to get 100% kills. Every time I did this zone, I was left annoyed. Don't know if it was me being tired at the time or what, things just didn't click and I ended up ducking the game for a bit as a result. Alright, Zone 4. At the start, hit your brakes and look straight up. You can beat almost the entire level without moving. You get 5 waves of these spider bots that explode if they touch the ground or touch you. And I was struggling for a while to get all kills on them due to the final wave. Until I realized you can just MG them before they spawn in, and it makes it really consistent. Relying on the homing shot just lets 1 or 2 slip past, and it just takes too long. You can see it right there. All I had to do was just wiggle as I was shooting the MG, and it's almost free. You could get away with doing that for all 5 sets, but I think it just doesn't look as fancy. From your braked position, these excavator bots will come in and the camera will position itself in such a way that the game is playing itself. All you need to do is tap shoot. There are a couple instances of this, where staying still and not moving around seems to be the pocket you want to be in, and it would be at odds with how most people would want to play the game. Almost in it's an early 3D game, we can't ask too much of the player kind of way. I don't think it's an oversight or anything, but rather an intentional decision to have aspects of the game be simple and straightforward. All the same, there are sections in this game that are really hard to do no damage, and I feel those bits are a touch at odds with the freebies like the ones you're seeing here. Regarding the spider mini-boss, I've seen footage of people bursting it down and destroying it right as it grabs you the first time, but I never got that to work. So instead I take a bit of time to dodge the lasso and whittle it down. It doesn't affect the time score if you're fast enough on the zone boss. I do suppose it works in this game's favor in regards to pacing, giving highs and lows in intensity so each segment can stand out more. For the sandworm, just stay perfectly still and it cannot hit you. One of the bonus missions sees you riding the thing and blowing up a bunch of enemies, and I almost wish we got to do that instead in the main game. But I understand it was kinda jank and not all that intuitive to do. But it goes to show that you don't always need a deep ocean of mechanics to provide a challenging experience. This is hard enough that I don't think I could ever do a run like this in one go. I do think I could do a 1cc on hard mode after this project, but it was just untenable to do all this single segment. It would be way too demanding and just downright inconsistent to achieve. I just don't see a single path of success, not even a glimpse of a method. So I'm assuming such a run would be to grind it out and roll dice until everything lines up, and I don't find that all that appealing, honestly. The zone boss is this tank-looking thing. Boost towards it at the start so you can get some extra damage in and save time. There's a little bit of score optimization that you can do with machine gun in between laser volleys, but only at the start. Once it gets going in its moveset, that becomes really inconsistent. These giant explosive columns here look worse than they are. A slight drift to the side is enough to defuse their threat, and the boss will always open with this attack. You'll get a few moments afterwards to get free damage in as the boss folds up again before it starts shooting out quick volleys of machine gun fire. When it does, just displace yourself after every set of homing shot you do and stick to the front of the boss. Going to its rear causes it to do a different attack that's far more difficult to dodge. Continue to do this for a bit and try to stay around its face for when it deploys these laser blades. When it does, get one last burst of lasers in and then focus on dodging by going straight up and rotate around the unit. When you hit the other end, get a little damage in, then loop back around the way you came. With a little bit of luck, this should give you enough time to destroy the boss before it drives off on you. If it does end up doing that, I have very little experience with that move, so I can't really help you anymore. This level is a pretty neat spectacle with the sandy dunes and distant lightning. The use of the floating particles looks nice too, and serves as a way to let the player know the direction they're going. The boss is a cool design. Can't really say I've seen a lot of tanks that turn themselves into towers. However, it did so outside the draw distance in the footage, so you guys never got a good glimpse of it in that form. Shortcoming of targeting 60 FPS on the PS1, I guess. With the 5th zone, it is really sketchy. I believe I could get no damage up until the mini-boss here on a single segment run. Until then, you are flying down this corridor and have some rudimentary obstacles to avoid. Every set of enemies you engage, you should have to move away from the center of the screen after firing on them. Otherwise, you'll take damage at every group. The lasers look scarier than they are. They're very easy to get around. Not that you should, since they do count as enemies, although there's one set at the end that is just part of the environment. Honestly, until the mini-boss, the level is straightforward and pretty easy. It was less work for me to single segment it than edit it together, to give you an idea. I talked about getting a Fascinator kit in my last video, and I ended up pulling the trigger on one of those listings. Paid a bit more than I would have liked, but tariffs jacked up the prices a bit, so what can you do? I've been building it off and on over the weeks, but progress has been slow, like an hour for a shoulder and arm apiece slow, and that's mostly related to my tools, but before I get into that, here's the wall boss. And the reason why it's so sketchy is because the second phase requires you to fly into the center of it while it has this laser dice cutter thing. The spin on this thing speeds up every time you pass through it, and the only tech I found was hitting the lock-on button a touch earlier than you would think to get more damage in and destroy it before it gets totally out of control. But even just looking at it in the footage here, it looks mad sketch. The boss would have destroyed itself once the tunnel starts to shrink, and this is the only instance in the game where you don't have to destroy a boss to progress. However, were you to do that, you'll miss out on the 6 additional targets at the end of the tunnel segment. This stage is the only case where you have more level to do after the mid-boss, and it's only more simplistic obstacle courses, so I'll let them off. The laser grid is free. After that, stick to the bottom 6 o'clock. The following bit, start at the top left part of the screen, go clockwise until you hit the 6 o'clock position, then go counterclockwise until you hit the 6 o'clock again. And then you're done until you hit the zone boss. Easy game, easy life. Here's a question for the fine folks watching. Do you know if colliding with the zone boss counts as damage? Looking at my health bar, it seems like it don't, but it could be 1 point of damage and just not display for all I know. It was really annoying getting hit by him as he swapped sides and didn't look cool, so it never made the video. Anyways, boss looks like a Tachikoma without the backpack. Try to lock onto its legs as much as possible to knock it down. As I have already alluded to, its side swaps are a bit jank, and if you're positioned poorly, they clip you as it passes by. When it's spinning like you see here in the footage, keep yourself on the opposite side of the tunnel, and this will let you pile on damage during the attack phase. It does these energy rings at the end, but I feel like you have enough time to react to that. That attack right there is why you want to target the limbs. When it spreads out, it starts barraging you with gunfire, and keeping your no damage when it does this quickly becomes untenable. But that only really applies to the bottom. When you're facing his top, he shoots out missiles instead, and those are quite easy to dodge. Once he gets this monster down to 1/3 his life, he will retreat and start shooting these huge balls of energy at you. However, they only can hit you if you're in the center of the tunnel. The boss won't aim at you or anything of the sort, so in practice this attack pattern is just a huge damage opportunity waiting for you to exploit it. Then the moveset starts repeating. The only odd thing to note is that every once in a while, the orbs it shoots on the spindly bit can be influenced with the boss taking damage and flinching, causing it to veer wildly into the environment. I had it happen a couple times in my various attempts, and I don't know if it's intentional or not, but it might be worth keeping in mind and just pacing your homing shots around when he attacks. Overall, this is a really cool stage, and it smartly works around the PS1's hardware limitations. Just the concept of fighting something while falling down has always been cool in my book. I think I need to blame Crank for putting the idea into my head. With that shot at the end of the film with Jason Statham falling into what's clearly a green screen while staying perfectly still, what a silly movie. The upcoming zone has a lot of similarities to the start of Zone 3. But with a different gimmick, being that this time everything spawns in front of you, but if you end up turning around, enemies are getting past you, at least until the final wave. This also doesn't apply to the first wave. Once you blow up wave 2, hit the brakes and maintain your position. You will need to wiggle around a little bit for some of the missiles that these guys fire at you. When you see multiple waves combining together, fly towards them and keep your lock so you turn with them. Clean them up and it's just mobile suits after. Hard part's done. But I did say earlier that the model is taking quite a bit of time. I bought a pair of God Hand nippers. No, not the good ones. These were cheap and double-sided blades. So they pinch the plastic and leave a nasty mark. So what I've been doing is I've been leaving around a centimeter of material when I remove parts from their trays. Take a craft knife and whittle down the rest before sanding the area. The knife bit always takes forever and it leaves a mess. Then I discovered that single-edge nippers exist, and they don't pinch like that and leave pretty good cuts, but they're a bit more expensive. Being basically brand new to the hobby, I couldn't justify paying a higher price for tools. This whole battleship fleet looks a lot worse than it is. You just fly forward and lock onto them. It's quite free. The main flagship, however, is not. But I enjoy it enough that $30 didn't seem too bad, and oh boy, it makes a difference. However, it led me to the craftsman's dilemma, where entry into a hobby has cheap tools, and the more expensive stuff has a premium, but is much more enjoyable to use. However, by that point, typically you no longer need them and could easily get by with the beginner stuff. It's the fact that the more expensive equipment would benefit someone new the most that I find odd. You would think it would be the other way around, but good quality demands a higher price. Mind you, I'm speaking in a very broad sense here. There's exceptions to everything, and the statement has more holes in it than Swiss cheese. There's just something I was pondering on the side when using the new nippers. I do enjoy using them though, it is significantly easier. You just bring it right up to the side of the model, clip it, and then do a small amount of filing, and then sand it, you're done. What normally took like 15-20 minutes, now I can do in 3. Sick. Regarding the flagship, just treat it as a souped-up space station from Zone 2. Remove the center cannon on one side to start with, then hit up the rear missile launcher mounted on the top. After that, go to work on destroying the rest of the guns. Each turret will chunk the health bar a little, and the bridge is destructible, but you can't lock onto it. One small thing to note is the ship's thrusters are a standing hitbox that will damage you if you fly near, so stay away from the tail end of the vessel. Otherwise, with regards to evasive maneuvers, just fly around in a clockwise or counterclockwise spin, and that evades most of the attacks. I said this fight wasn't free, and the only reason is because of the death rattle this boss has. It's some straight up gotcha bullshit. DSP would have a field day with it, calling it a beginner's trap. Before that, make sure you destroy all the turrets, unlike what I'm doing here, just wasting time farming a couple hundred points with the MG. So here's the bullshit attack. It teleports away and will appear behind you, and you'll get a caution and it will fire its main gun. What you need to do to dodge that is look down and then dodge the second you see that white flash in the start of the caution. That insta-kills you on hard. It's fucking cheap. And I don't agree with it at all. It's the only time the game tries to pull a fast one on you, and after you figure it out, it will never nail you again. I think it's only there to piss the player off on their first go-around, and it's completely unnecessary. The zone boss is this giant space worm, and the head has a shield on it until you destroy all of its segments. Almost looks like the centipede in Hyperdemon. Fly off to one side to get its body to coil up, letting you get groups of lock-ons almost effortlessly. Flying off to the side additionally evades the two main attacks it does, being a large energy ball or a peppering of machine gun fire. This is more of a spectacle boss than anything else, and I'm fine with that. It gets a phase change once its head is the only thing remaining. The monster will fly off and start shooting sporadically all over the place. All you need to do is pull your emergency brake and stay perfectly still, since your original position just so happens to be the pocket once again. This strat ironically also works on the final boss as well, although that said, that encounter is only a couple steps more involved. I'll touch on it more when we get there. But as you can see here, it flies off and you just lay into it with your machine gun. I quite like this stage. I think this stage, Zone 1 and Zone 2 are my favorites out of the whole lot of them. There's something about being able to fight in space and seeing a planet off in the distance that's really cool in my eyes. The red nebula on this level as well looks really sick. I just wish I could show it to you guys. It's one of those things where you can't take a screenshot to show people, and you can't take a photo with your phone because it doesn't look good. It's kind of like HDR in that sense. You have to be there in person to see it, otherwise you just think it's some dumb bullshit, like a marketing scheme, but it's not. It's real. It's there. You might have noticed that the end of the video is rapidly approaching, and my score is only half what I said I ended at. And that's because Zone 7 is, no joke, 1/4 your total score for the entire run, and it's all because of the boss. But before that, this level is quite involved. Fly up and get a full set of locks on the dropship, then fire a little bit with your MG, then turn around and lay down some roots. You'll get a group of bombers flying at you, and it's easier to deal with them this way. The tricky bit with this zone and gain all kills is a sequence coming up with 3 dropships. One in front of you, then 2 behind, stacked on top of each other. The problem is, if they get their mech payload off, the auto lock-on stops being your friend, and you need to fight it before the ship flies off. When you approach the pair, the lock-on will, on top of all that, go for the one on top instead of the bottom. This is bad, since the bottom ship drops off its troops first, and frankly, this is just bad design. Thankfully, getting around it is straightforward, and it just ends up being a little quirk you need to keep in mind when playing this level. The next bit is easy to take damage on, and it's these groups of walkers coming at you from outside the draw distance, 2 waves. Much like the wave of bombers, park and take a smoke break, then gun them down with your MG and lasers. Preferably with your MG, since you can shoot them before they enter your lock-on range. The second wave is the finicky bit, since they add a small group of bombers into the mix to throw a wrench into your plans. Put too much time towards the flyers and the ground troops get shots off and ruin your day. I like to gun down one side of the mechs like you see here, then use that space to move around and reposition as needed. It's consistent enough that I would go for it on a single segment run. Look at this giant Akira reference. This game is in the far-flung future in the depths of space, with giant robots and time travel, and one of the bosses is a giant motorcycle with energy swords mounted to the sides. It's how you know for sure the Gran Turismo guys were behind this game. Unfortunately, for as cool as it looks, the method for defeating it is really stupid and simplistic. Yes, you're seeing this right, going from right to left repeatedly dodges the missiles and the blades. It's quite sad, really. That's why it has a phase 2 where it splits up into 2 smaller bosses. Don't be close to either of them, and you can destroy one instantly before it has a chance to do anything. For the second one, just fly above it. I wish I had more to say, but no, really, that's all you need to do, just fly above it. I think the only thing that can damage you is collision with it and the laser it shoots straight to the ground. Coming up is the Point Pinata himself, Beta Boost 2, with an entirely different set of attacks from his first phase. He gets a handful of moves this time around. Finger lasers he shoots at you, flying around, that can damage you by the way. Overhead beams he shoots from his back, you just need to move around to avoid those. A spin attack with the finger laser. There, you just need to stay still and a good distance away from him and it shouldn't clip you. And finally, an energy football he kicks at you that has a dead spot right in front of him. This encounter requires you to move around a bunch to not take damage. And recognize when he likes to bring out his copy of FIFA and close in on him fast enough to get into the dead zone I mentioned. Your lasers are still going to be your biggest source of damage, and the scariest thing is not being far enough away when he starts doing this spin. When you're too close, stray shots will clip you. After he does the spin is when he typically does his football attack. And it's here in this position, he cannot touch you. Just don't be too close, otherwise it can clip you, and on that first kick, make sure you dodge to the side when you're closing in on him. Now for the 400k points. When he dies, you can still shoot him and lock onto him, and I can't tell you why, but he gives a disgusting amount of score per shot. From my testing, there's a cap on how many times you can shoot him with your MG before the bonus expires, and you can refresh it with your lock-on lasers. I got 350,000 here. You might be able to optimize it with a single shot and get more, but when he flies off and hits you like so, it does no damage, so keep firing just in case you get a couple extra hits on. I don't know why I haven't seen videos of people farming score from this guy. It's an obscene amount. Again, I have to stress this, it's 1/4 your total score for the entire run. And I wish more bosses had this because it's fucking cool as hell. Overall, level, I guess. I think it's supposed to remind you of the Death Star. Outside that sick score tech, I think the desert planet was more interesting to look at, and this zone is more interesting to play. Now, considering that the draw distance is so tiny, the fact that it can resemble anything at all, it's really impressive in its own right. Okay, Zone 8. This is the hardest stage in the game to get full points on. It's a goddamn nightmare through and through. Level is only a little over a minute long, and it has 2 enemies. I'm gonna talk a little fast here. I got a lot to say and not that much time to say it, so it's gonna be interesting. Alright, here we go. To start, you can get clipped if you're unlucky. Destroy every part of this enemy as fast as possible and pray he doesn't fly off like a prick. When you do enough damage, he will move forward and separate. The core on his back is the part you want to lay into with your MG. Then he will reassemble and get health back. You have to 2-cycle him or the full bonus slips through your fingers. Second go around is the pain in the ass. If you don't destroy all the turrets on his body and he does not give you his back, you're screwed. The only way to consistently do that is stare the bull down into his eyes while your mech blocks your vision and play chicken with the energy ball. You just have to time it. Then he separates again, and with a little luck, you should be able to defeat him here. If you're unlucky, you will have to dodge one turret and you can't really see it, so you're praying to God. Done? Fly to the bottom of the room and wait. This is a case of it looks simple because everything worked. Believe me, it's hard as hell and I don't even get the full 100 points here. And that was the easy half. The next one's harder. The following boss is this shifting mass of matter. On normal, it just sits there, but on hard, it shoots out projectiles at you constantly and you can unfortunately lock onto them, thus killing your damage output. Ideally, you should be targeting the tentacles on one side, but that never worked out for me. It looks clean here, but this is not fast enough. I'm just barely short of getting the full bonus. I legitimately couldn't tell you what I did wrong. It seems, looking at this footage back, that I'm targeting the main body as much as possible, but I guess I just wasn't fast enough. Maybe I didn't kill the first boss quickly enough. This is a really hard level to get the full rank on. I admire the fact that the stage is as short as it is, and casually, it's a really neat gimmick fight. But goddamn, rank running it made me look at it in a very different light. Look at that, 98 points. I'm just like 2 seconds shy of where I need to be. Seriously, I haven't the slightest idea what I could optimize here to get the full points. And it's not like I didn't spend enough time there. It took me 3 hours to get that run. Right, final zone now. Hardest stage in the game to do no damage, and it's because of the second boss. For the first boss, open up with your MG before it loads in. It has a gimmick where the center crystal reflects your lock-on shots, and the smaller ones orbiting it reflect your machine gun. The trick is destroy all but one orbiter and lay into the main body. They'll shoot out these blades at you, but by this point you should have no problems getting around them. And I wish the rest of the stage was this easy, but it's not. The boss coming up, holy fuck, this is the worst thing in the game to avoid getting hit by. If you're not following my rules, Viper boost it and go straight to the second phase. To give you a rough idea, to beat this boss it took me 4 hours, and in those 4 hours I got to the front of it without taking damage 3 times. Third time I put a save state there because fuck doing that again. When it first flies by you, you need to hit it with as many lasers as possible, and if you get unlucky, you just get fucked. Looking at it, you would think, oh, just stay on the side of the tunnel it's not currently at, and you should be able to avoid all of its attacks. Hell no, that's not how it works. The only legit strat is to blow up the missiles and cannon sections before you have to do rotations around the tunnel. Collision is just gonna bum you like the IRS will. Even after spending as much time as I have on this boss, I still can't give you a consistent method of reaching the front without getting hit by something at least 9 out of 10 times. It's brutal to no damage. The front, however, is pretty free. There's this pocket safe zone you can enter, and you have to pay attention to where the worm is physically in the tunnel. Ignore the rotation of its head, it's not relevant. When you get into the zone, hug the wall and hit your emergency brake, and just sit down and focus MG fire into the mouth. You don't have to interact with any of its movement whatsoever, it's very consistent. When the camera starts zooming out, the following attacks you have to respect. The purple middle balls it shoots has shit boxes on them. Give them an extra berth and don't try to be fancy about it, all the while machine gunning the fins on the mouth. When it closes in for what looks like a bite, keep firing. Actually, don't stop firing period here, since the front just reflects your homing shot and that can damage you. Something to note, the second set of purple attacks have an even worse shitbox than the first if you're on a diagonal to them. Stick to your cardinal directions if you can. When this boss goes down, you can get another 1,000 score if you don't stop shooting. Not that it really matters at this point. What an absolutely terrible boss for this kind of run, and it's at the end of the game to boot. Brutal. Gotta figure out ways to steal quarters from people at their homes, I guess. Like, that first boss alone for this zone is enough to, like, shut down and kill you 2 or 3 times before you figure it out. How this zone is scaling, you're probably thinking the final boss is going to be some horse shit stacked 10 stories high and ready to throw down. You'd be wrong. The final boss is a total pushover, but the room it's in has this really cool afterimage effect that I'm quite enamored with. The only thing it has going for it is it's very pretty, and your lock-on speed is abysmally slow for no reason here. Otherwise, you could melt it in seconds. And no, I didn't do any editing to the music. Static X is in fact playing in the background. That's just part of the game. The main pocket is once again staying still for most of these attacks. It has Beta's overhead strikes, but now you have the extra step of tapping lock-on to stay level with the creature. For the limited time it stays up, these are the only 2 things you'll be seeing. The first attack of it spraying everywhere looks insane, but you're just in the best position by default, and it's only designed to catch people moving around and panicking. I know this boss has more going on, but it always goes down before it gets to fully play its hand, and I think that's a touch unfortunate. It's a lot like Ibis in Silent Line. A lot of programming going on there, but not enough health to even use any of it. As a shmup working in a, at that time, brand new perspective for the industry, I suppose having a pain-in-the-ass boss prior to the TLB, you should probably make it a victory lap, otherwise you come off as petty and vindictive. Mind you, I'm speaking from a position of ignorance here. My experience with shoot 'em up stems from looking at Ikaruga and playing Death Smiles 1 a handful of times on hardware, and this game. Overall, this game is sick as hell. It's only a bit annoying when you're trying to no-damage it. When you remove that restriction and outside of 2 points where you get knowledge checked, it remains tight throughout its runtime. I ended up playing it a couple more times while working on the commentary track. Even got a hard 1cc in, although my rank was terrible. I still maintain that doing this particular run, being no damage, no bomb, all S ranks, just doesn't seem very tenable for my current ability levels. But I really wanted to showcase this game and do something cool with it, so this video came to be. It has segments in it, which I think is a touch unfortunate, because I feel like the spirit of this game should be just 1cc it, but again, I'm not good enough yet. Maybe one day. As for what's next, I have a really stupid challenge run in the back burner that I've been working on. I do want to do a project with Gungrave, but that's another case of I'm just not good enough yet. And there you go, Omega Zeus. Worked hard for this one. Also wanted to use this video as an opportunity to test out this resolution. It looks funky when you're in theater, but when you're playing it normally, it looks fine. Let me know what you think. Anyways, thank you for giving me some time of your day, and I'll see you Starside.